Welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. I bring you tips, advice, and guest stories about creating work you love. Whatever type of career or business you have or want, I want to help you find more meaning, money, and happiness. Now we are live from Hollywood. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Limit Free Life Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host, and I have a wonderful guest today who has a very interesting and unique career in business, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Emily Martinez. And Emily, well, I'm going to read you her bio in just a minute, and so we'll get to Emily's background and very interesting business journey and how she is scaling and growing her business in just a minute. But first, I want to thank you for being here. It's Wednesday at 1 o'clock that we are here at ubngo.com and also live streaming from my Facebook page, the Limit Free Life Facebook page. And we love having you here to talk about career transition, business growth and development, and money. And so we're going to bring all of that together in today's show. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little background on our very wonderful guest, Emily Martinez. Emily is one half of the owners of Village Chimney Sweep, Inc., located in North San Diego County. Together with her cousin Cole, they are third generation to own and operate San Diego's oldest chimney sweeping and dryer vent cleaning company. The company was kept intentionally small by the previous generations, but Emily and Cole are in the process of growing and scaling. Unlike many entrepreneurs, Emily did not come to this lifestyle until later in life. She attended UC Berkeley without a clear vision beyond school. Knowing that she wanted to make a positive impact on the planet, she worked for a nonprofit conservation organization for several years. However, this wasn't where she wanted to be over the long term, so she went back to school to get her teaching credential. While in school, her aunt and uncle offered to sell the family business to Emily and her husband. The idea of owning her own business was enticing enough to leave the credential program. Her husband, however, was entirely uninterested in being a chimney sweep. So Emily took the idea to her cousin, who was already working for his parents. The two embarked on this adventure, unsure of their vision for the company beyond wanting to grow it. Now they are looking to move towards sustainability and efficiency as part of their business model. And we're going to talk to Emily today about just how they are taking this established business and really reworking it and scaling it to new heights and to fulfill some of her vision of helping the planet and creating some help in service for efforts in sustainability. So Emily, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Good. We're so happy you are here. So Emily is Zooming in today. And so Emily, I love this. I love the fact that I love the fact that you're a woman in a chimney sweeping business, which I see as something unique. I haven't met anyone else in that field before. So I'd love to hear more about the journey that you took to get to this point and just some of the decision making too that went on in your mind, because as you know, we talk a lot about, getting clear and being able to make decisions. And I'd love to know how easy or difficult the decision was to jump into this and some of the thinking process behind that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was born and raised around here, and my dad worked for the city of Escondido. He was a chemist. And so I was very much raised in the mindset of you work really hard at what you do, and then you work for someone else, and then you get a good job. And, so, and because I'm the first child, I follow rules. So I was like, that's what we do. Follow it. So, it never even occurred to me that you could build something that makes sense to you, that, goes around, like can work around your life rather than the other way around. Mm-hmm. So I was actually, when I was working at my previous job, I was like listening to a podcast one day, and I think the topic was that it was something to do with you can actually make more money in a for-profit organization for good than you can for like a nonprofit organization. And so, concept being like, even though if you work for a nonprofit and give 100% of your proceeds away, if it's still only $5, it's only $5.
Yeah.
And so that was the point where I was like, oh, you can just do something good for the planet and still make money. And so that was sort of where it triggered. But after that, I didn't do anything with that. So I just sort of let it sort of simmer for a while. And then becoming a mom and doing mom things, that's when I was like, you know what, I should like create a schedule at least that looks like something that my kids have. So that's why I was in school. And then while I was in school, this opportunity arose. My aunt and uncle had run this really successful business for a long time. It was a really, like, they have a very loyal customer base. They do really right by their customers. So, like, they're very trusted in the community.
Right.
People who in Southern California who sweep their chimneys, they were trusted. So, they're at retirement age, and they're like brought this opportunity to me, and it never even occurred to me like, oh, I might be able to do this. And so, knowing full well that I was not about to sweep any chimneys, I'm like, there's no way, that it doesn't make sense. Like, it does not compute. So then my husband, who's way more entrepreneurial than I am, was like, you don't have to actually sweep the chimneys, dummy. And so I was like, oh. So then the creative juices started flowing. And then I, worked with my cousin. And so we bought this business. So we've owned it now for a little over a year, in January of 2018. But throughout my life, I've always been coached. I was an athlete. And so it occurred to me very early on that I had no idea what I was doing. And so in order to be successful, I needed help, and I needed coaching, and I needed some guidance. And so
nice.
That's where we are now. I mean, we've definitely improved. We're moving forward. Like, things are scaling, and it's really a great challenge. And I'm meeting awesome people like you. This is such a fun thing for me.
Good. I agree, and we're both in a mastermind together. So we're both part of a big coaching program that has a mastermind component to it, and so we speak fairly regularly with our group. And it occurred to me today that it would be fun to just talk to the audience about masterminding, and just because I think we both got off yesterday's call saying, wow, this was such a good call. And we both felt, we had new ideas and new insights, and just felt more positive about what we were doing, and had some organization to it. So I thought, for those people out there who maybe don't know what masterminding is, or don't know how valuable it can be, especially for entrepreneurs who are kind of isolated in their own little worlds, maybe working with either by themselves or with just a few people, to get other perspectives on your challenges and what you want to do. And it's just invaluable. So do you want to just comment on the masterminding?
Because I hadn't exposed myself to this type of information, masterminding for me has been such like a crash course, but it's not like going out and reading a book,
right.
Because it's so, like, you have these people who care about what you're doing, and you care just as much about what they're doing. And so, small victories include small victories for them.
Right.
So it's fun to like hear what everyone in the group is working on. And then when they have like a win, especially when it's like a follow-up about something that you discussed before, then you're like, this is awesome, And so it's so invigorating to be around people of like mind.
Yeah, and you can get very tangled up in your own thoughts and your own, you can complicate things dramatically in your own mind, and then you sit down with the group, and they really do help you to break things down and see how you can make things work, and sometimes how you can make things work more simply. I think it's been so much fun too to have. I like the fact that your industry is completely different than mine. So when you present ideas, they're coming from a completely different place, but I think that's so valuable because when you just hang out with people who do what you do, you just, it's constant kind of regurgitation of the same ideas over and over. So I think having you in this group is so great because your business is so different, but some of the things that you do in business are so applicable to everybody else as well, even though it's different.
I agree entirely. Yeah. It's like, especially in our industry, really, it's not that big, throughout the country. They even bring in like imports from overseas, and it's still like a pretty small community. And so I was like seeking out people from different industries. That's part of the reason why I was so drawn to this mastermind in particular, because, even though there's a lot of like similar, I guess, customers within the group, like you could easily transfer customers from one person to another. Still, like the take and the different way that people go about reaching their conclusions is pretty fun to hear.
Yeah, it is really valuable. It really generates a lot of ideas, and there are so many ways to find masterminds. I mean, we're in one that we're part of a group that we pay for coaching, but you can also mastermind with people just who out there in the business community who you feel are like-minded and have the same level of ambition or whatever, and organize your own masterminds. But I just think it's a really important part of growing your business, especially in your case where you want to grow and scale, which is everybody needs help with that and new ideas. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me, when you got into this initially, did you second guess it at all, or was it a pretty easy decision to just jump in and go forward?
I second guessed every single day. I had been raised with security, like point A to point B. But the best part is the fact that I'm now in control of my own destiny.
Okay.
There's a very direct correlation between effort and outcome. And there's also, I don't feel like I'm the kid in the group project anymore, where you have to like rely on the other people who aren't pulling their weight. Now It's like, we're the group, we're the leaders of this group project, and we're making it happen. Yeah. It's still like, it bothers me that my default is the fear setting. However, I'm so much more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so I like that I get to push myself all the time now. And then see very direct results. Trying, if I don't like the outcome, I try new things.
Right.
So for instance, we're trying a new revenue stream. I think it's going to work, but it might not if we don't put in the effort. So
yeah, I love this too, because this came up earlier, and I'd love for you to elaborate on that, because in business, as you go along, you discover the gaps, you discover where, the income isn't coming in where you need it to, or the people aren't there where you need them, whatever the various gaps are. And you discovered a gap, and the beauty of being an entrepreneur is, like you say, you can take control and try to do something about that. And what you're doing about it is new. And so you do have to kind of tackle that fear and insecurity about it. But it's also, in my opinion, a brilliant idea. And so maybe you can just speak to how that came about and what you're doing to add to broaden the business, which is part of your scaling goal, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes. So, when you're a chimney sweeping company in San Diego County, you're very seasonal. My theory was that if I could figure out how to market this and move it forward, then I could probably figure out how to market anything and move it forward. And so, however, part of the growing pains is dealing with the seasonality of this industry.
Right.
So we also do dryer vents. We clean dryer vents.
I was reading your website that really got to me. I'm like, ooh, I don't know how long it's been since I've cleaned my dryer vent, but you scared me. So now I'm going to.
That's a good one to, have someone check on that one. Yeah. So, then we were thinking like, still though, that's not sufficient to get us through the warm season because it's, 100 degrees and nobody thinks about hot things. So, our plan, we were like, well, we're on roofs. So what can we do on a roof? So, we were thinking of cleaning solar panels. And so that's what we decided to roll out. We're like, you know what? We know how to walk on roofs and we know how to take care of systems. So it's go time. So we are kind of we're pushing the envelope here, but I think it's going to go well. I think
it's a great idea. And that whole industry is growing. And, but I love the thought process, the fact that you looked at what you're already doing and came up, because so often you need an idea, but you're stuck. And so you started thinking about all the other things, the fact that you're on roofs, I mean, that's just kind of a brilliant process, I think.
Yeah. Well, we are experts in our field. We also take pride in the fact that we know our stuff. But mostly people don't want to go on their roofs. They're not interested. We're also solving just a general convenience factor,
right.
And so we just we would like to solve things, make people's homes more efficient, and also just generally save them some time. I think it helps.
Yeah, and that's an area where people don't know how necessarily to clean their solar panels. And so I could see people going for a long time without ever doing it. And so they lose all that efficiency that they were hoping to get. But I love the environmental, impact and just the fact that is so wide open in terms of possibility. So you didn't go and do tons of research on this, or really you sort of looked at what you were already good at, where your skills and strengths are as a company, and just made a decision that this could be something that would work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hate to say that we were flying by the seat of our pants, but a little bit, because we know, we definitely researched things and went to see if it was something comparable to what we were already offering. So price wise, we're not making any huge changes. We also, they have a comparable certification that our technicians will go through. So there's certain things that we as a company value, like education and having really knowledgeable technicians. And so because that's part of our core values, we are implementing those things as we go. But we have to move fast. I mean, ultimately, we need to make these decisions right away, because not only, like you said, it's an emerging market, so we want to be the forefront in this field, but also we, want to manage our cash flow through the summer. So we have some very, very quick things that we have to handle.
What are some of the tricks that you've learned in your work to make things happen quickly? What would you say, when people, because that's hard for people, they can have all the ideas in the world, but to actually make them happen and make them happen quickly, that's a whole different skill set. So what would you say to people about that?
I don't know if I do it well, but I do it because when I reach the point where my stress level is too high, then I'm like, the easiest thing I can do is solve it. So, I don't deal well with stress. I don't stay in stress long because I don't like it. And so ultimately, for me, making a quick decision solves that stress. So yeah, I just need to, and luckily we're a small company, and so we are flexible enough. And I also work with my cousin, and so we have a close relationship, and so we are both generally on the same page, which helps
Right.
as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I think that ability to make quick decisions is crucial in business. And so the fact that you're able to do that, because a lot of people stress more over the decision making than, so you're able to make the decision, and that actually alleviates stress, which I think is an interesting point. I think that's true for a lot of people, but that knowledge and that awareness, I think, is good to give you the freedom and the permission to make decisions.
Right.
So, how is it working in a family business? Because that can also be tricky. I do know people who are in family businesses, but it's tough for a lot of reasons, and some of them are there more out of obligation than anything else. You've obviously chosen this, and that's great. But any quirky things about running a family business with family that is interesting?
Well, I think the best book I ever read, and I read it luckily before I purchased a business, was The E-Myth Revisited.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that billions of times.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I love that book. I think it's one of the best. Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I got a hold of that before I started any of this, because we took that org chart really seriously. So we're very careful about staying in our lane. So for instance, Cole is the technician. And so he handles all things technical, which includes not just the work, but also the decisions about the work. So like our company policies about what we will and won't install, and, those sort of things.
Right.
Ultimately, like, he'll ask me, he's, we're involved in this together. So I put in my 2 cents, but he makes the decision and I listen to it. And then on the other side, like, I handle the marketing thing. And so if I say, I think we should spend money on this, then he's like, okay. So, that's been our success so far.
Nice.
So far.
Right.
So
right.
It works though.
That's great. Yeah. So what does scaling mean in terms of building out team?
Yeah. So we are our focus right now is to get all of our systems in place. We want any technician to go into a home and do the exact same procedure that any other one would do. Okay. So I don't want any of our customers to be married to any one technician. So because of that, our intention is to be able to create this amazing training program. Nice. Where each of our technicians their competency level is as high as our most senior technician. And so once we have that in place, then we'll be hiring for culture. And as long as they fit with the type of person and the same sort of values that we hold, then we're just going to be moving from one area to another, whether that is like physical area or, service.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's a great model. What, when you came into the company, was there already a vision and values and things like that set, or did you two rewrite that for yourselves?
We rewrote it. There wasn't anything really like written down in stone. We mostly sort of took what they already were doing and then turned it into our own. So, like the valuing customer service, and then families, the family first sort of values, those lasted. But really, like the larger vision sort of was our own.
Okay. Yeah. How fun. It's that must have felt really good, actually, to have even though you were taking over a business to recreate it in that way and be able to have a new starting point for yourselves. So
Yeah.
I think oftentimes people, they'll take over something and just kind of maintain it, keep it going, and it doesn't ever feel quite like theirs, so what are some of the challenges that you've run into, to this point? Some of the bigger ones that stick out in your mind as being kind of the most difficult.
Yeah. Well, cash flow is our constant challenge.
Okay.
We, we did really well in the quarters that we expected. And then knowing still that we have these drier periods coming up, we just didn't have as much of a savings built up because we're still basically a startup. And so we just like managing the cash flow continues to be challenging. Also, as I'm hearing from people, until they really go through a few seasons in their business, they don't have the feel for what things to expect. And so I think that was part of it too. Like just didn't have the feel for what it really feels like to be in the off season. And so, I mean, I'm choosing to put a silver lining around it because we have opportunities for growth. So it's pushing it to grow.
Right. No, that's wonderful. And the cash flow issue is one that I guess surprises people a lot. But it becomes a huge issue with pretty much every company. And actually, last week's podcast was with Marilyn Magget, and she was talking about just that. She helps, companies with their cash flow issues because people are so focused on revenue and expenses and not necessarily what's left after those expenses and how the cash is flowing. So, that is probably one of the more stressful areas of business is handling cash flow. So, but you've already figured that out and are addressing it. So that is quite impressive. Yeah, good to learn these things early. So speaking of cash flow and money, I'd like to talk about money mindset and relationship with money. So, and if you were a person who originally was going down a more traditional road where you're getting a paycheck and you don't really have to concern yourself as much with, the ups and downs. That's one mindset, and then when you move into an entrepreneurial venture, how did you have to shift your emotions and psychology around money, your relationship with money to handle that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, until I moved into this world, I'd never even heard of money mindset.
Right.
I didn't know that was a thing. But, I wholeheartedly embraced it. You hear speakers talk about how when you're putting out lack into the world, like that's what comes back. And I have time and time again, like seen how true that is. We've been in I can think of at least 3 times where we were like, we should invest in something. Like it was just an expensive piece of equipment. We're like, I don't know, we're not getting that many calls about it. Maybe not. But we bite the bullet, we make the investment, and then the return comes back like immediately.
Oh, wow. That's excellent.
Like that same day we get a call and basically it just paid for a piece of equipment.
Wow.
And so, like being aware of that and just cognizant of that sort of power, has helped me like solve so many things. Cause I definitely, like I've said, I definitely default to the fear setting. But as soon as I am aware of it, then I can back myself out. And then I'm like, okay, and we're good.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a process for evaluating that potential return on investment when you make an investment like that? Or are you, are you just trusting yourself? How are you looking at that?
It's kind of both.
Okay.
I wish I was way more scientific, except the basic is I just say, okay, I just need to sell this many jobs
Mm.
and then, or get one big job that's this big. And so basically I just have that in my brain and then we're like, let's just do it. And then it comes back.
So you do at least think through what would be required to get the return, and then you sort
Yeah,
of set an intention to bring that in.
absolutely.
So you are focusing on what's needed to
Right.
recover that. Yeah. Okay. Um, so yeah, very interesting. So, is there a large capital investment that you could potentially make going forward? Is that something that is on your mind, or?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've been sort of putting it off. We're at the point where we're close to being ready to take on another truck, which
Mm.
involves a whole nother set of equipment, and then blinging it out so it looks pretty. But that process, we just didn't want to take on any sort of that sort of investment going into our dry season.
Mm.
And so that's the next big is in quotation marks,
Hmm.
investment that we want to make. As soon as we do that, I'm confident that we'll be filling all the way up.
Mm.
We're just in the process of figuring out how we want to staff that truck.
Hmm.
So that's our next step.
Very cool. Okay. Yeah, I love that. So, any other money beliefs that you've had to shift or let go of for this to move forward for you?
Yeah, debt is a big one.
Okay.
I was so anti-debt.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
um yes, I'm just okay with it and understanding that there's a difference between a shopping spree and an investment.
Mm.
And so I make a lot more educated movements in that space with
Mm.
debt.
So, what was your prior belief about debt?
Well, we were victims, or self-inflicted victims of the crash. We
Mm.
lost our home in
Oh, wow.
2008.
Wow.
But so did everyone. So
Mm.
not everyone, but that was just, it was part
Hmm.
of the culture. But it left my husband and I sort of shell shock, and so we were
Right.
like, okay, we're just gonna make choices to avoid this situation again. But that was several years ago now.
Hmm.
So, now we are at the point where we're moving toward, our company is moving toward investing in our assets and,
Hmm.
avoiding liabilities.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So now you're seeing debt as potentially a way to scale and grow your business,
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
manage it well and handle it the right way.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. So actually, you probably had to overcome a lot of uh, old beliefs to move forward in that way, given what had happened. So yeah. So congratulations for that, because those kinds
Yeah.
of shifts are so important to allow people to get what they want. Um, so very interesting. Are you thinking of going beyond San Diego County? Is that part of the future plan?
Yeah, eventually. So we're definitely moving into South, what's the next county up? Riverside or something.
Okay.
So we want to move up because there's not a lot of certified
Mm.
people in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're playing with the idea of even going like out of state.
Mm.
Everything's so automated now.
Right.
All of our dispatching and everything is online. So it's very easy to operate an office remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been considering moving to a place out of state that needs a chimney sweep, or a
Right.
technician or whatever. So I'm part of a few different groups, different service individuals that discuss the techniques doing that. And
Mm.
so it came to front of mind. Well, I don't know where we're, that's just sort of nebulous for now, but it could happen. So
Mm. Yeah, and that, once I would once you have this going in one other location where you're not in that location, I would imagine then that's replicable all over the place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we're counting on. I
Yeah.
hope so.
That's fantastic. Okay, very interesting. So, what would you say in terms of do you like the rate of growth? Like, are you happy with kind of the plan you have and the way it's flowing and the way these ideas are unfolding?
Yeah, I am. I would like the implementation to be faster.
Okay.
But there's only so many hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows us to grow into being experts in our field. So, yeah, I like the idea of being able to fully flesh out an entire person or vehicle and make them as efficient as possible and make them as profitable as possible, and then adding another human and another vehicle and then doing the same for them. And so I like the challenge and the puzzle of putting all of those things together, all the pieces that you need to make it as robust of a unit as you can.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you're building out such a strong foundation and you're doing it kind of methodically with strategy and right actions to really build this strong foundational piece. Because I guess I never got over it. I was I managed a clothing store in Florida many, many, many years ago, and they were really popular, but they grew really, really fast, and then boom, they were gone. It was just this huge, fast growth, and I never, I guess I never forgot that idea that just because people love something, you can expand it way too fast, and probably goes back to the cash flow issue, but. Yeah, so I really, and people do get anxious. They have a big idea and they want to make it happen really fast, but that isn't the smartest way necessarily to do it. So I like hearing how people, their plans for growth and how they want to roll things out, because that sounds really smart to me. So. Yeah. Well, we don't have too much time left. I want you to let people know how they can find you, and I think it's a great example of how to get into a business that may not really be something all that well, but to take it, make it your own, and figure it out as you go. And just really have fun building a business, because the sense I get from you is that you're enjoying this, that this is fun, it's creative, and it's a lot of things that are satisfying to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think I was listening to a podcast the other day, and Angela Duckworth, who talks a lot about grit, was talking about maybe not following your passion, but turning what you're doing into your passion. And this is definitely one of those cases. There's no way I would have ever thought of owning a chimney sweeping business. That's not something that people do. And so but the fact that there's this freedom with owning your own business and then being able to turn it into whatever you want. I mean, I want to create something sustainable and long lasting. And so, the challenge of doing that is what keeps me going, and I love it.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I wanted to have you on, because I think, to have that limit-free life, it isn't always about, this is my favorite thing to do, it's my passion, I'm going to turn it into a business. And sometimes it's a little backwards, like what you're doing, and I think that's a great example for people. And so anyway, I commend you for what you're doing. It's great, and I'm looking forward to seeing the growth and what areas you get into. So would you let people know how they can find you and get in touch with you?
Sure, yeah. You can always reach us online at villagesweep.com. If you live in our area, we'd be happy to sweep your chimney or your dry vent, or now clean your solar panels. But if you have any questions or anything, just like to chat, you can also just reach us through there too.
That's great. And I would imagine people do have questions about those things. They're sort of mysteries to most of us who have homes.
Yeah, it's weird. I know. It's a weird thing.
Well, it's wonderful to have a fire going in your chimney in the winter. So we all love that part of it. But so you're taking care of that for us. And I think that's great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really interesting to talk to you. And well, I'll be talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, listening audience. We so appreciate you being here, hoping that these conversations are interesting and helpful to you if you're in business or thinking about going into business or thinking about any kind of career moves or money moves as well. So you can find me at limitfreelife.com. My Facebook page is Limit Free Life. And you can ask me questions. You can suggest ideas for shows. I would love that at michelle@limitfreelife.com. And hope to see you on Wednesdays here at ubngo.com. You can also, I would love it if you would subscribe to the Limit Free Life show on iTunes. It's on Spotify and iHeartRadio as well. And here's to you in your business, and see you next week. Of the work that I do is that your work is yours to create. This is your piece of art that you can create in your life, and there's really nothing stopping you. Overall, most of us can learn what we need to learn and figure out what we need to figure out and create that fabulous career or business that we dream about, and there's really no reason to think that you can't. My name is Michelle Perkins, and I am the CEO and founder of a company called Limit Free Life. And I help men and women to make dramatic change in their lives so that they can have the fulfillment, fun, and financial prosperity that they have always wanted to find through their work. The main services I offer through Limit